F1 fans remember Niki Lauda for his 3 world titles, but in the aviation world, he was known for something far rarer, a type rating on the Boeing 777. This wasn't a billionaire buying a toy, it was a professional captain building a fleet from the cockpit out. This is the story of Niki Lauda's aircraft, the machines he didn't just own, but the ones he personally flew to the limit. Cessna 421 Golden Eagle, the aircraft that forced Lauda to master the art of thermal management and complex systems before he ever touched a turbine, the Cessna 421 Golden Eagle. To the untrained eye, the 421 looks like a standard light twin. To an aviator, it is a high-altitude laboratory for engine discipline. Unlike the smaller Cessnas, the Golden Eagle features a pressurized cabin, allowing it to cruise comfortably at 25,000 feet. But staying at those altitudes requires power, and that power comes from 2 Continental GTS-IO 520L engines. The G in that designation is the most important letter in Lauda's early aviation career. It stands for geared. In most piston aircraft, the propeller is bolted directly to the crankshaft. In the 421, a reduction gearbox sits between them. This allows the engine to spin at high power-efficient RPMs, while the propeller stays at a lower, quieter speed to prevent the blade tips from reaching supersonic velocities and losing efficiency. For Lauda, the 421 was the ultimate test of mechanical sympathy, the same trait that made him a legend at Ferrari. Geared engines are notoriously fragile during descent. If a pilot chops the throttles too quickly, the propeller begins to drive the engine, a condition known as backloading the gearbox. This can shatter the reduction gears in seconds. Lauda had to manage the manifold pressure with surgical precision, ensuring the engines stayed loaded during the entire descent from the flight levels. Furthermore, these engines are turbo-supercharged. At 20,000 feet, the air is thin, and the turbos are spinning at over 50,000 revolutions per minute to keep the engine breathing. Shutting them down immediately after landing would lead to coking, where the oil literally bakes onto the red-hot turbine bearings. Lauda's operational logic was clear. The flight didn't end at touchdown. It ended after a meticulous 5-minute cool-down period. He chose the Golden Eagle because it demanded the same thing as a Formula One car: an absolute understanding of the pressure and temperature limits of the machinery. It wasn't about the 240-knot cruise speed. It was about the 20-page pre-flight checklist and the requirement for a pilot to be a systems engineer as much as a navigator. The 421 taught him that in aviation, speed is a byproduct of cooling, and safety is a byproduct of discipline. Learjet 36. In 1979, Lauda stepped out of the Brabham cockpit and into his first private jet, the Learjet 36. While the 35 is the more common model, the 36 was built for a very specific mission: extreme range. To get it, Bombardier, then Gates Learjet, shrunk the cabin to fit a massive fuselage fuel tank behind the passengers. The Lear 36 is powered by 2 Garrett TFE 731-2 turbofans. These were some of the first geared turbofans to hit the civilian market. By using a gearbox to allow the fan to spin slower than the turbine core, Garrett achieved a fuel burn rate that was nearly 40% more efficient than the straight pipes used on earlier Lears. This allowed Lauda to treat the aircraft as a high-speed commuter, hopping across continents with a range of over 2,400 nautical miles. For Lauda, the Lear 36 was a tool for geographical arbitrage. He used it to commute to F1 events while simultaneously building the foundations of Lauda Air. Because the 36 has such a high wing loading, it is famously stiff in turbulence, providing a stable platform at Mach 0.81. However, this came at a cost. It required long runways due to its high takeoff and landing speeds. Lauda didn't mind. He wasn't looking for a Bush plane. He was looking for a machine that could outrun a schedule that would have broken a normal person. But Lauda's transition from a private owner to a commercial operator wasn't just a business move, it was a test of his technical conviction. It culminated in a moment that changed the safety architecture of every modern wide-body jet flying today. The Boeing 777. In 1991, following the tragic crash of a Lauda Air Boeing 767-300ER in Thailand, the official narrative pointed toward an accidental deployment of the thrust reverser on the #1 engine. Boeing's computer models suggested that a deployment at altitude was controllable. Lauda, a pilot who understood the raw physics of lift and drag better than the analysts, disagreed. He traveled to Seattle and demanded access to the Boeing flight simulators. The technical telemetry of the 767 and 777 systems at the time relied on a series of autolocks to prevent the pneumatic drive units from deploying the reverser sleeves in flight. Lauda performed over 15 simulated runs at high-altitude cruise. In every single instance, the aircraft became divergent and crashed. He proved that, at Mach 0.78, the massive disruption of airflow over the wing caused by a deployed reverser didn't just create drag, it destroyed the lift entirely on one side. His technical insistence forced Boeing to redesign the locking actuators and the electronic logic of the thrust reverser systems globally. This is the moment the aviation world realized Lauda wasn't a celebrity enthusiast. He was a master of the machine who could go toe-to-toe with the world's largest aerospace manufacturer. Having forced a global redesign of heavy metal safety, Lauda returned his focus to his personal fleet, seeking out the same level of engineering redundancy in his next acquisition: the Challenger 300. Fast forward to the 2000s, and Lauda's relationship with Bombardier evolved into a brand ambassadorship. The aircraft that defined this era was the Challenger 300. This was a clean sheet design, meaning it wasn't an evolution of an old airframe. It was engineered from zero to dominate the super midsize category. The 300 is powered by two Honeywell HTF 7000 engines. These power plants are a favorite of maintenance-minded pilots like Lauda because they utilize a Sabre blade fan design and a simplified core that requires fewer parts, increasing reliability. But the real story is the wing. Unlike the Learjet's older, thinner wing, the Challenger 300 uses a supercritical wing profile. This shape delays the onset of supersonic shockwaves on the upper surface, allowing the jet to cruise at Mach 0.82 with significantly less drag and a much higher fuel efficiency than its predecessors. Lauda frequently piloted the 300 himself to attend races in his role with Mercedes-AMG Petronas. The 300 offered something the Learjet never could: short-field performance. With a takeoff distance of under 5,000 feet, Lauda could access smaller regional airports closer to the tracks, while still having the 3,100 nautical mile range to cross the Atlantic if needed. It was the ultimate no-compromise machine, rugged enough for high-frequency use, but sophisticated enough to fly at flight level 450, 45,000 feet, to stay above the weather. However, as Lauda's global influence expanded, he needed a platform that could cross oceans without sacrificing the short-field performance he had grown to rely on. Bombardier Global 5000. On March 28, 2012, Lauda stepped up to the Bombardier Global 5000, an aircraft that represents a masterclass in aerodynamic shrink wrapping. While the 5000 is often overshadowed by its larger sibling, the Express, its engineering logic is actually more aligned with the precision weight distribution of a race car. By removing a 32-inch fuselage plug from the original Global Express design, Bombardier created a jet with a shorter wheelbase and a lighter empty weight, resulting in a superior power-to-weight ratio and a significant boost in climb performance. The heart of Lauda's 5000 is the Rolls-Royce BR710 A2-20 turbofan. For the technical observer, these engines are a study in bypass efficiency. Each produces 14,750 pounds of thrust, utilizing a 48-inch solid titanium fan. The BR710 was the first engine to use a dual-channel full-authority digital engine control that communicates directly with the cockpit's Global Vision flight deck. For a pilot like Lauda, this meant the engine management workload was shifted to the computer, preventing over-temping or over-torquing during the critical high-thrust climb phase, allowing him to focus on the trajectory. Another thing to note about the Global 5000 is its wing, which is a flexible masterpiece. Unlike the rigid wings found on regional jets, the Global wing is designed to act as a natural shock absorber. It lacks the traditional heavy wing spars in favor of a sophisticated ribbon skin architecture that allows the wing to flex upward during turbulence. This doesn't just improve passenger comfort, it reduces the airframe's structural fatigue. When Lauda was flying at Mach 0.88, roughly 590 miles per hour, this wing profile maintained a laminar flow that kept fuel burn remarkably low for a jet of this mass. Lauda's decision to take delivery of the 5000 in early 2012 coincided with his increasing responsibilities at Mercedes. The 5,200 nautical mile range meant he could fly non-stop from Vienna to the Brazilian Grand Prix in Sao Paulo, or from London to the Singapore GP without a fuel stop. Because the 5000 is shorter than the Express, it has a more favorable thrust-to-ramp weight profile, giving it the ability to depart from shorter runways like London City. This allowed Lauda to bypass the heavy traffic of Heathrow or Gatwick, saving exactly the kind of time that translates to championships on the grid. He didn't just buy a jet, he bought a 45,000-pound tool that turned the planet into a manageable racetrack. Bombardier Global 6000. By 2015, Lauda's relationship with Bombardier had transcended that of a mere customer. He was now a formal brand spokesperson and technical ambassador. This was the era of the Global 6000, which he took delivery of in February 2015. While the 6000 shares the same fuselage diameter as the 5000, it features an extra fuel tank in the wing-to-fuselage fairing, pushing its range to 6,000 nautical miles. The 6000 was the platform where Lauda helped pioneer the Global Vision flight deck. For a pilot who demanded the same telemetry precision in the sky as he did on the track, the Vision deck was a revelation. It was the first to integrate a synthetic vision system directly onto a head-up display. This allows the pilot to see a digital, daylight-clear representation of the terrain, even in zero-visibility fog. Lauda's feedback was instrumental in refining the human-machine interface, ensuring that despite the staggering amount of data, the pilot in the loop remained the primary decision-maker. Bombardier Global 7500. On March 29, 2019, just months before his passing, Lauda took delivery of the first Global 7500 in Europe. This wasn't just another upgrade, it was a shift to a clean-sheet transonic design. The 7500 replaced the Rolls-Royce engines with the GE Passport turbofan. These engines utilize a one-piece bladed disc design, reducing weight and vibration while producing 18,920 pounds of thrust. But the 7500's true engineering crown is its smooth flex wing. Unlike the 5000 and 6000, this wing has no hard slats or flaps that create parasitic drag when retracted. It is an aeroelastic structure that maintains a laminar flow up to Mach 0.925. Lauda likened the transition to the 7500 to moving from one generation of F1 car to the next, a complete reimagining of what a high-performance machine can achieve. Niki Lauda's aviation career spanned over 18,000 flight hours, more than many professional airline captains. His hangar history, from the geared piston Cessna 421 to the ultra-long-range Global 7500, reveals a man who was never satisfied with being a passenger. He didn't view aircraft as status symbols, he viewed them as force multipliers. Whether he was diagnosing a thrust reverser failure in a 7777 simulator or helping Bombardier engineers refine the ergonomics of a side-stick controller, Lauda brought the test pilot mentality to everything he flew. He proved that the difference between a celebrity with a plane and a true aviator isn't the size of the fleet, it's the depth of the technical discipline. In the cockpit, just like on the track, Lauda knew that if you don't understand the machine, you aren't really the one driving it.